Welcome to the Creator's Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world hearing their stories about growing a business. Today, we talk about how while solopreneurship is great, it's also great to join a community of like minded creators. We also talk about how when you look at a niche from the outside, it might seem pretty specific, but when you really dig in, there are all these other segments and opportunities of different potential customers. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heights Platform. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, we're here today with Crystal Bonnet. She is a raw food chef, instructor, and cookbook author. Crystal knows the importance of culinary aspect and nutritional elements of living foods, and she shares this information with her students at Crystal Dawn Culinary through her online courses, training, and her book. Her work within the plant-based culinary industry led her on many adventures, including the development of plant-based menus for new restaurants. Through her comprehensive classes, she shares the knowledge and skills home cooks need to incorporate healthy food alternatives into their lifestyles. Crystal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure. So my first question for you today is, what would you say is the biggest thing that either you did or you are doing that's helped you to achieve the freedom to do what you enjoy?
Yeah, this is a really good question because when you have a business and you're a solopreneur, you don't really have freedom, but at least you are doing something that you enjoy. And most people who start a business based on their passion. So to me, that's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom to me is being able to practice something that I love and I enjoy, and I'm giving that back to the world rather than just going to work as an employee and collecting a paycheck. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing that I could have done was start my own business and work for myself. I feel like that definitely gives me the most freedom.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that as well. Cool. So what inspired you to focus your career and business specifically on like raw vegan cuisine? What would you say it offers maybe for those who are unfamiliar, like in terms of both health benefits, culinary experiences, and everything else compared to like other styles of cooking or
Yeah. So the reason why I do raw food as a business because it's something I'm so passionate about, and I discovered raw food 10 years ago when I was actually pescatarian at the time, and I was getting sick all the time, but I was eating a lot of processed food. So I knew that I had to make a change in my body, just something was not right. And I came across a 21-day raw food meal plan and followed it to the T. And I was like, this is how food is supposed to taste. The flavors, the textures, everything was just, I'd never experienced like that before. So I just fell in love with the creation as well of raw food. So I started taking as many courses as I could take and learning everything I could learn about raw food. And so that really was the gateway into doing this as a business because I just loved it so much. And for those who don't know what raw food is all plant-based foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. You can have oils. There's lots of it, cacao, coconut, in foods that haven't been heated over and above 118 degrees Fahrenheit. So things that haven't been heated at a really high temperature. So you can still have warming foods and things that have been heated in the dehydrator, but not above 48 degrees Celsius or it's 115 Fahrenheit, because they've found and done studies that once food is subjected to these temperatures, then they start losing their enzymes and their nutrition value. So just incorporating more living raw foods into your diet, you're going to get way more micronutrients. You're going to get more digestive enzymes, and all of the things that your body needs in order to heal. The hydration as well. So even if, people who've never had raw food before, it's so easy to incorporate into your diet, even like one green smoothie a day. Just start there, and you're going to be getting way more nutrients than most of the people, eating a standard American diet.
cool. Yeah, so I'm a pescatarian myself, and been that like that, I guess, since like 2010. I've enjoyed a couple like raw vegan places and things that I've been to. There's one restaurant in LA in particular I really liked. It's interesting to me all like how creative you can be with it, and I guess you have to be
Mhm.
in preparing things. And for me, my wife and I had tried like we've made like kale chips and stuff in the like dehydrator, but it was always something that like I never personally took the step to like go beyond being a pescatarian. Partially just because like I'm choosing that for health reasons, I guess, but it's something that it just seems difficult and to be preparing all these different things. But I'm interested to like hear some more about it from you. So I guess my question next is if somebody would want to try this out and is interested in this, any like tips for individuals who'd want to like incorporate more like raw vegan food into their diet but don't have
Yeah.
so much experience?
So number one is getting rid of the mindset that raw food takes too long to prepare or that it's too complicated. If you look at what people are eating most of the time, if they are eating fruits and vegetables, which I hope most people are, then they're already eating raw vegan food, right? So I think that people need to like take away the label
Mm,
and then look at it. Okay, I'm eating fruits and vegetables already in my diet that aren't cooked, if they're eating a salad or if they're eating an apple. So then they can think, okay, wow, this isn't so bad. Number one is the prep. The prep is a huge thing. Like you need to prep. But to me, I was just talking about this earlier today. I think cooking is way more work and time consuming than raw food. I mean, if I have to stand over a stove and like wait for something to cook and like watch it, especially with baking, you got to like watch it in the
mm,
oven and make sure it's okay. And then there's risk of burning it with raw food. It's really hard to screw up raw food. I mean, you definitely have less food waste doing raw food because you just it's really hard to mess it up. I mean, if you're blending a dressing or prepping vegetables, when you're buying your produce, what I do is you come home and wash your herbs and your lettuce right away so that you have it ready to grab and go. You
mm,
can prep components for a few days. Like for instance, if I make wraps, I like to prep all of my components and I'll just have including the sauce or the dressing and then I just have everything ready to go. When I make my lunch, I can just put it all together. And just like what I was saying earlier, even incorporating a smoothie into your diet, you're going to be getting a lot of nutrients into that smoothie, a lot of the raw vegetables and fruits. If you're adding greens and if you can add herbs and fruit, superfood powders to give you more nutrition. If you add that into your daily diet, you're going to be getting a lot more than most people. So yeah, just taking away the stigma that it's too time consuming, making sure you make the time for prep and blending something up is really quick. So even if you can just get in a smoothie is great.
yeah, that makes sense. It's a different process, but not necessarily one that takes longer. It could actually take less time. Interesting.
Exactly.
So you started your online business as a solopreneur with no prior experience. What would you say are like some of the biggest challenges that you faced when starting out, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I have more challenges now than I did when I first started out. Um, when I had first started out, I already knew a lot about the online space because I was working for an online school. I was
Mm,
working for a raw food culinary school in the US and I was doing some online work with them with their online school. So I knew a lot already. And I had read a lot of books and listened to a lot of podcasts on, how to create an email list and lead magnet and all of that stuff. So when I was first starting out, I felt like because I was starting from scratch and I had a blank canvas, it was so much easier and it seemed a lot simpler. Where now, as you are a few years, you get into your business and things are changing, like the online industry is changing constantly every day. And how people sell courses now does not work the same way that we sold them 3, 4 years ago.
yeah.
So this is a huge challenge I'm dealing with in my business right now is just pivoting and making changes to keep up with with what's happening in the online industry. So yeah, and I'm doing a lot of things. I'm in this weird transition phase where I'm transitioning over to some new things and changing some things in my business that work better. So yeah, it's definitely, I find now it'll be actually 4 years this August. So 4 years. I feel like this has been the most challenging year yet.
So for those, especially those who are like just starting out, what would you say is an example of something that worked well a couple years ago that's not really working well now?
Oh, well, funnels definitely I felt like worked way better, worked better back then. Also, too, because of the saturation now in the market. I mean, when I first launched my business, I had only the second raw dessert course online.
Wow.
And now you could imagine how many there are now, right? Especially over COVID. Like COVID was just the huge online boom. And thank goodness I had started before then. But yeah, the saturation of the market definitely makes it a lot more difficult now. There's just so much online, and I feel like people are really overwhelmed because when people have too many options, then of course that causes overwhelm. It's harder to sell. Everything is so much more expensive now. Facebook ad space is way more expensive. Just everything, just the cost of running an online business. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because I just ran a webinar. I just did a webinar last weekend for one of my courses, and I used to run a very similar one a couple of years ago, and I would sell about 130 courses. And I did basically the exact same framework, but with the updated recipe. I had updated my course, updated everything, and ran the same kind of funnel. And I sold, I think it was like 28 courses. So, I mean, it's just very different now. It makes you stop and think, okay, this is not working. I have to figure out something else. Yeah, I think it's just the saturation and overwhelm definitely is a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And it is crazy how fast some things change because I think like last week I talked with Ron Douglas. He is the founder of WebinarCon. He was really big early on in webinars and built multi-million dollar businesses with webinars and different things marketing online. And like back then it was like, wow, somebody's holding a webinar, an online thing. I'm going to go to this. And
Yeah,
now
that's
it's
great.
so saturated that the novelty of that has worn off.
Yeah.
But I think like there's so many other things that can be done now. It's just different and it's changing, and you have to continuously adapt to that.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I could go on and on about this. Sorry, but you probably want to answer,
no,
ask your
no,
next
I mean
question.
that's fine. Is there anything else you want to what else do you want to say specifically about it?
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple other frameworks that work better. For one, when you're doing these free webinars and these free classes, you're getting a lot of leads that are not good quality leads because people will just be scrolling, oh, yeah, I want to sign up for this, but really then they're not actually going to watch it, or they just, don't even end up like, because I'll look in my email system and I could not believe the amount of people that didn't even open the very first email for the class, for instance. I think now low cost offer lead magnets are so much better. And actually, I have one that's performing really well because once you have someone that is paying for a product of yours or a service, then that's a way higher quality lead than someone who's not, who hasn't paid you anything. So, and you see this a lot, people doing these lead magnets that are, $27, $20, these super low cost offers to get them in their funnel. And I think that is working a lot better now than these free webinars. In my space, obviously, all of the industries obviously are very different, but I think in my space, in the culinary niche, that's working better. And then memberships, of course, memberships is, the big new thing, the community and the membership. So I think those are other options to look at as well.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. I would have said the same thing, but I'm glad that you're saying it that way instead of just me telling my audience, "Oh, you just got to trust
Yeah.
me on this." They get to hear it from more people. That, yeah, like when you have somebody who is a lead who purchases from you, they're so much more likely to actually buy later on. And
Exactly.
like I remember times like we've run Facebook ads and we're like, oh cool, we found a great way to get people to this lead magnet. It's like, I don't know, $1 per lead or something. And we're like, great, we just got 1,000 leads really quickly. And it turns out none of them ever buy anything. And then
No.
just, and compared to like, it's not saying that like it's bad to have a free lead magnet, because you can have those and some people will become buyers eventually, but it's hard to like, it's hard to make sense out of spending money to promote the free lead magnets, because it's easy to get signups, but those signups don't mean those people are going to buy.
No.
And one of the great things also about having the low cost lead magnet, so you have the benefit that you mentioned where somebody who pays you money is much more likely to spend more money in the future, but it's also helping to cover some ad costs or other tech costs or whatever in your business, so that you don't have to look at it as like making money from them right there, but you're acquiring that lead for either free or reduced cost, and then you have a chance to sell them your bigger flagship product later on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's obviously the big bonus right there is it just covers the ad spend, so you don't even have to worry about it. I think for people who don't have any authority in their niche and who are just starting out, I think then it's good to do a free lead magnet. But if you you've already established a community and you are already an authority in your niche, then I think that's when the low cost offer works well.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. So yeah, you have your Crystal Dawn Culinary, which offers these online courses and training on raw cuisine. So how did you decide to kind of like structure these courses, and like who is it primarily designed for? Is it designed for like the average person who just wants to be healthier, or like what's the specific individual that you're targeting?
Yeah, so really anybody who's looking to incorporate more plant-based food into their diet. You know, it's funny. I'm working with a new Facebook ads manager, and we recently did a huge case study on my audience, market research, and we had found out, and I didn't even know this, that over 50% of my students are not even vegan, which is huge because for one, I'm like, wow, I'm introducing them more to plant-based foods. So they're eating more plant-based foods. That's where I feel like I'm making a difference in the world. But also too, it's made me realize that I'm speaking to people who really just want to get creative in the kitchen and figure out how to make something new. So, I mean, my students it's all over the place for me. I have people who want to do raw desserts as a business, who just want to make raw food at home, or who have a bakery and don't even eat vegan, but they want to offer more vegan options, or more dietary options. So yeah, for me, it's really anybody who's really open to it and just wanting to incorporate more into into their life or their business.
Cool. Yeah, I really like that. And I think it's such a good example, because somebody hearing about your business for the first time could say like, oh, well, this is like a super niche thing already, because it's not even like being vegan, it's raw vegan. And so they might say like, okay, well, that's super, super specific. But you just described this huge range of reasons that people would come to you, and you could have different marketing angles for each of them. So like the person who is already a vegan or raw vegan and wants to learn more and like kind of be creative with it, the person who just wants to be healthy but is not even a vegan at all, and then the person who like they're doing it and they want to do this as a business. And so like there's three like really big ones right there in what already seems like this like hyper niche thing. And so
Yeah.
I kind of would encourage anyone else to like say like, oh, well, is my thing too niche? There's probably these segments of your audience that you're not even thinking of that would be really interested in what you have to offer.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So you also have, you wrote a raw dessert cookbook called The Art of Raw Desserts. Can you share some of the inspiration behind the book? And I guess like how did it start for you? Was it like you had this focus of saying, I'm going to go into the online courses, or was it like the book first? What was the timeline for that?
So it was the courses first, also too, because I was teaching in person for a couple of years before I took it online. So I had already had my curriculum.
Mm.
So I took everything online first, and then a couple of years into my online course journey, that's when I was approached by a publisher to do a cookbook on raw desserts. Because at that time, the only course that I had available was my raw dessert chef certification course. So I was kind of known as like the raw dessert guru. Like it was my thing. That's what I did. So when I was approached by the publisher, it's funny because I never wanted to do a cookbook before. I never thought I was going to do a cookbook because I know how much work they are and they take up your whole life for a long time. And this publisher, I had been approached by other publishers before, and I just didn't like the timelines that they gave me, and I just didn't connect with them really well. But this publisher I really connected with and I really liked. So I signed on with them, and of course the inspiration was my experience that I had of raw desserts. So they came to me with the proposal of doing a raw dessert cookbook. And it was such an amazing experience because I'm so happy that I did it because it made me a better recipe developer. It made me a better recipe writer. Because when doing a cookbook, when you don't have the videos available, it's a totally different ballgame. People have to really rely on the written recipes in order to create the recipe successfully. So you have to look at it at a completely different angle. So it really made me a better recipe writer, even a better curriculum writer on how I deliver my curriculum and what I include in my curriculum. So overall, it was just a wonderful experience because it just made me improve in all aspects of what I do in my business. So yeah, if anybody gets the opportunity to do a cookbook, I say please go for it because you will learn a lot and you're going to improve like no matter what, 100%.
That's great. So you mentioned earlier a little bit about memberships as well. I'm curious, like what is either your favorite way to get new customers nowadays, as you said, that things are changing, or like what is it that you're working towards, or what's either your primary business model or like anything that you're shifting in it? Do you have
Yeah.
like a membership component now?
No, but that's what I'm working on. It's funny because I've been working on this on and off since last year, and I almost launched a membership last year, and things just started coming up in my life, and every time I would get to that point of wanting to launch it, something would happen. So I'm like, okay, clearly the universe is telling me that this is not the right time. So I waited, and now this is exactly what I'm working on again because I shut down. So my model right now is I just have lifetime access courses. People can purchase whenever they want. They have lifetime access to the programs. But what I'm really seeing now, and I think a lot of people would agree that when you deliver content that way, I mean, the average graduation rate is 10%, which is so low. So if you really want people to really participate in the programs, it definitely has to be delivered somewhere, some way else. Actually, you know what model that I love, and I signed up for a course that was delivered this way, was a boot camp style, where you had like just a certain amount of weeks and you have different tasks every week. I really like that model. So I was toying with that as well. But obviously that's going to be a lot more work on my end, which is fine. But yeah, so it's something that I'm also thinking about as well. But so right now I just have the lifetime access, can sign up whenever you want. And we all know in the online course industry that when you have this model, people need urgency to buy, right? People aren't just going to, very rarely do people go to your website and just be like, oh yeah, I want to do this course. I'm going to sign up right now. You need some kind of promotion or some kind of urgency for people to get in right at that time. So yeah, I'm really working on the membership model and hoping to launch because I shut down my raw dessert course last year just because of the way that it was delivered. It was really unsustainable. It was basically a lifetime membership. And this was the first course that I launched. This is my flagship program. It's called the Raw Dessert Chef Certification Course. So people actually do get a certification. They do assignments. It's a lot of work on the students' end. It's a very big course. It takes them about 6 months to a year to complete. And I shut down enrollment just December 31st last year, because people would pay once and then they get access to all the updated content plus monthly live classes. So for me, on a business standpoint, and because I mean, I didn't know, I had just started, I didn't know, I just wanted to give everything that I had, right? I'm like, I'm just going to teach them everything I know. I just want to give everything. And then you realize a couple of years later why you're not making any money. It's like, oh yeah, because I'm still delivering all this content, but everyone's already in my program. So I'm not charging them anymore for any of the new stuff. So this was why I shut that down and why I'm moving it over to a membership program. So my raw desserts course basically is going to move into that. And I'm working on how I'm going to be delivering that. I'm working on the framework. I actually have a business coach. I've never had a business coach before. This is the first time I ever hired one. So I'm working with him on, he specializes in memberships. So I'm working with him on getting this set up. So hopefully I'll have that launched in September.
Cool. Yeah, I think you bring up some excellent points there that when you start out, it's easy to just want to give everything. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do, because it does help you get customers. But what you found now is that what you're actually delivering is kind of like a membership model, but you're not charging the membership for it. And I think it's also interesting because, like, depending on the creator, depending on what you're offering, like I don't believe that there's like this is always the better option of membership or fixed price or however it is. But depending on what you're offering, like something might be better specifically for you and your business. And so it sounds like for you, the membership model is that, and has the potential to be that, especially if like six months to a year, that is a long time. You're right. Of how long the course takes. So that sounds good. I mean, I've seen so many like cooking related courses where they have the membership model because like there's constantly new recipes and new additions to the content where that just makes sense. What I would say, if it's helpful to you, because you mentioned like the boot camp style and the low priced lead magnets. So we typically refer to like the boot camp style as like challenges, where it's like live that you're going through at the same time with everyone. And what we found works really well is to have the challenge be like the low cost lead magnet. And then that leads to either the fixed price, like one-time payment course, or the membership. And what's really nice about that is you've proven that they're a buyer, but then the challenge itself, because it's happening like in real time, like, okay, it's this week or this 2 weeks, this 5 days, whatever, everyone has to go through it. So there's the urgency to say like, I have to do it now or I'm going to miss out on it and lose it. But what's great about that is that starts to build like the habit of them engaging in your content. So then they start to get used to it. And now when they take either the flagship course or the membership, now you have them, they start off from a better place of engagement, that you're more likely to get a higher percentage to actually complete it or go through more of your content in that way.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. That's a really good idea. Yeah, having the challenge is the low cost, then gets them in get them in the habit of actually doing the work. I love that.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are considering to launch their own online courses in like this niche of either like healthy food or just cooking in general?
Yeah, well, that's a very big question.
I know, I realize it.
It could be a very long answer. If an entrepreneur wants to launch a business in the online course space, I would definitely do your market research and see what other people are doing in the field. Because you definitely don't want to just do what everyone else is doing, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to get new leads. So, and you don't want competition, right? I mean, we should all be working together anyways, but just doing the market research in your niche on what's already being offered, and just, I guess, too, doing the research on like what we're speaking about right now, on how to strategize and plan on how you're going to get customers and how you're going to market your course, or however you're delivering it. And really just getting the confidence to take that risk. I think a lot of people still have, I mean, geez, sometimes I still get imposter syndrome, not so much anymore. Like I did, for a few years there, just having the confidence to being like, yes, I can do this and I'm going to take the risk and it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be worth it. I'm finding some mentors and people to look up to that can help you. That's a really big piece of advice. Get help. Get help wherever you can, because I really struggled because I'm the kind of person where I'm like, I have to learn how to do it on my own. I'm going to do it all on my own. I'm not going to ask for help. And this is the first year where I have been branching out and asking for help. And it makes a huge difference. Just having even someone as your cheerleader, helping and supporting you on, and who knows what you're doing. So yeah, have that community around you. Join a community of people who are a business mastermind or something like this, of other entrepreneurs who are doing the same thing as you, so that you can all help each other and just have that support.
Yeah, I really like that. I think like it's awesome to be like a solopreneur, but at the same time, like that doesn't have to be like this badge of honor excuse to suffer. Like you
Yeah,
can get help from others and join a
exactly.
community, things like that. Make it easier and more enjoyable for yourself along the way.
Exactly. It is good though to know all the aspects of your business. I'm a big believer in that. Like,
Hmm.
know everyone should know how to do everything in their business, just in case, something happened, just so your business would still be running. But it's good to have, help as well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. All right, so one thing we like to do on the show is to have each of our guests ask a question to the audience. So if you could ask our audience anything, whether it's something that you're curious about, something that you kind of want them to be thinking about, what would that be?
Yeah, I would love to know with your audience who is in the online culinary space and who is thinking about joining the online culinary space. If there's other chefs out there who are wanting to deliver recipes and educational content in the culinary niche, yeah, I would love to know and connect with you.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, all right. So then with that said, Crystal, where else can people find you online?
So my website, all my social media handles is Crystal Dawn Culinary, it's DAWN. So they can just Google that and they will find me. My website pretty much has every way of contacting me. So that's crystaldawnculinary.com. And that's where all my courses are. You can get my cookbook there, all my social media handles there as well. I have lots of free recipes on my website. So if people are looking for, if they're like, wow, I'm really interested in this raw food thing, they can find some free recipes on my website. And I have some recipes on my YouTube channel as well.
Great. All right, Crystal. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.